Welcome to this week's book review. I'm Shelby Book, and today we're joined by writer Alice Sebold. And what novel of yours will you be showing us today? The novel is called Lovely Bones. It's about Susie Salmon, whose curiosity and inability to say no to adults becomes her hamartia. On December 6, 1973, she was walking home from school when her neighbor, Mr. Harvey, lures her into an underground fort where he kills and assaults her. Without a body for evidence, her family is left not knowing the killer and without closure. This is specifically difficult on each family member and Susie, who struggles with her own death in heaven. Perfect summary. Now, you talk about Susie's struggle. Could you go a little further into who she is and how she impacts other characters? Of course. Susie before her death was like any girl her age. What made her special is her ability to see people for who they really are. Specifically her mother. Susie recalls the morning of her birthday where she feels she's seen her mother as her own person. I quote, "She was in that moment not my mother but something separate from me," which was in the end what her mother truly wanted. Susie in heaven continues to study and watch her family and friends as they grieve, but that's very difficult for her. She longs to be with her family as any young girl would and eventually wills herself to be on earth. And I think when she returns, that's the moment she finds closure. She was able to have that one last moment on earth with someone she loved, rather the first time, when she had left in fear. As the author, I wanted you to feel and see the world exactly through Susie's eyes, and by making her the narrator and her view from heaven, you can feel her pain and not able to hold the one she loves, but really only watch them suffer. How is this progression and development shown in the setting? Well, Susie's room is the most key setting in the novel. Since they first knew that Susie hadn't come home to weeks later, it had yet to be disturbed, which is very authentic to real tragedies in the family. Slowly, each family member came into that room to reflect and be close to her for a moment. As we progress through the novel, the family leaves the room as it is, which represents their kind of inability to move on, and they run from their sorrow in each their own way. By the end of the novel, the family packs up the room, and even though her things are no longer there, they find comfort in each other. And for Susie, it's comfort knowing that her family can continue to be happy and live their lives. It sounds like an incredibly emotional story. Was it hard for you to write and be well perceived socially? Yes and no, because when I was a young girl, I had been assaulted by a man, and just before me, same to another girl, but she was murdered, exact same way as Susie. So that was a big contributor to the novel. It was a testimony to how I struggled to cope, just like Susie does. And then being able to feel relief and be okay with that part of my life. So it also resonated with the times then. Unfortunately, the novel was published after 9/11, but the book was dark and difficult, but it was hopeful in the end and showed people that they could get through these terrible pains. Thank you for sharing that. I think almost anyone can resonate with that message. Speaking of message, what would you say is your overall theme of your novel? The overall universal theme is acceptance and family. When the family and Susie must both learn to accept what has happened and accept the pain they feel, because without doing that, they can't keep moving. Once they were able to, they had their family to lean on and even created new families. But characters like Mr. Harvey have no one, and it represents the lack of love and comfort that family brings, making him this empty, dark person. Well, we seem to be running out of time. Did you have any last statements about your novel? Yes, the story Lovely Bones is a testimony about being able to come out of the darkness and overcome, find the light in the ones you love. The bones being the pain and the darkness of losing Susie, but the lovely bones is the way they will remember her, full of light and hope. Thank you for being here with us today. And thank you. Join us next week for the review of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. See you then.